Welcome to the Elaborate Topics podcast, where we focus on lab-specific strategies for medical laboratory professionals. We're proud to be the healthcare detectives that work behind the scenes to get the results needed to influence medical decisions. Let's grow together and jump right into the lab.
Welcome to another episode of Elaborate Topics. I am your host for this episode, Tywana Wilson. Today we have a very special episode. We have our guest on here, Ms. Tiffany Channer. She is the chair of the ASCP, Council of Laboratory Professionals chair, and we want to jump right in and pick her brain about all things happening with that particular professional society. So a little bit about Tiffany. Tiffany is the Assistant Administrative Laboratory Director and Quality Manager of a community hospital in White Plains, New York. Ms. Channer's passion, dedication, and advocacy towards education and community outreach spans her years of undergraduate at Stony Brook University. During her undergraduate studies, she was a STEP mentor where she educated students of neighboring urban areas of medical laboratory science. In 2007, her acts of leadership and advocacy awarded her 4 distinguished awards upon graduation, after which she was granted a life-altering opportunity of being an American Society of Clinical Pathology President Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief PEPFAR Initiative Consultant in Swaziland, Africa. In Swaziland, she taught proper phlebotomy and laboratory safety techniques to personnel in the medical industry. This experience compelled her to pursue a master's in public health with a concentration in health policy and management and a graduate certificate in global health. Ms. Channer graduated from New York Medical College in May of 2013 and has used her knowledge of management to engage and inspire her staff. Her work shows her devotion towards clinical laboratory science. She taught clinical laboratory students and doctoral fellows theory and technical facets of transfusion medicine. In accomplishing her duties as a blood bank lead, Ms. Channer strives for all students to understand the impact laboratory medicine influences on patient care. Tiffany recruits for the clinical laboratory science profession as the American Society for Clinical Pathology chair for the Council of Laboratory Professionals, patient champion advisory board member, and career ambassador. She educates, informs, and inspires students, seasoned scientists, and individuals within the STEM field of ASCP and its importance to the field. In Ms. Channer's spare time, she continues to support her passion for community service and laboratory science by conducting presentation at local high schools. Her service and dedication have awarded her with accolades she's most humbled to receive. At the 2012 ASCP annual meeting, she was awarded the ASCP Regional Member Award for the Northeast region. In 2015, Ms. Channer was honored as one of ASCP's Top 5 40 under 40 Future Leaders of Pathology and Laboratory Medicine. These honors were acknowledged by her alma mater, Stony Brook University, being a 2015 Stony Brook University Alumni Association 40 under 40 nominee. In 2016, she was awarded the Network Journal's 40 under 40 Achievement Award. Last but certainly not least, Emerge Magazine, the spring 2019 edition, featured Ms. Channer alongside her fellow clinical laboratory science colleagues as outstanding women in STEM. Channer expresses how this moment was monumental for her. She is grateful for the opportunity and hopes to pass along the opportunity to other rising women in the future. Ms. Channer is extremely flattered for these distinctions, but truly believes only through her formative education at Stony Brook University and New York Medical College has allowed her to receive such recognition. Ms. Channer lives by the Nelson Mandela quote, "Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. Her love of education permeates through her acts of service and it hopes to inspire and encourage future scientists to enter a field unfamiliar to many. Hello, Tiffany. How are you?
I am excellent, Taiwana. Thank you so much for having me.
I am so excited to have you on the show. I know that you are very involved in the clinical laboratory industry with your employer as well as with ASCP, our national certification agency. And so wanted to get a little bit of information about you and your lab journey and kind of what you are doing today.
Yes, so my journey, boy, it's been something else. From graduating at Stony Brook University in 2007 till now, I have done quite a lot. I started out as a generalist, but my main focus was, of course, the lovely blood bank. I will say to the day I die, I'm a blood banker. So I worked at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center for about 10 years, and I took the risk and relocated to Florida for a few years. And to be honest, I'm most grateful for it because it gave me the opportunity to broaden my experience in terms of working with different institutions, both small and large. So with that, today, I'm now the Assistant Administrative Lab Director at a community hospital in White Plains, New York. And I'm more than honored to have this position.
That is awesome. I am so excited to hear that you have taken risk in your career, and it sounds like it paid off of practicing and staying in the profession of both New York and Florida. So I'm sure that you have gained a lot of value working with different teams among your years as a laboratorian.
Oh, yes, most definitely.
Tiffany, why is it important to be connected to the profession through professional organizations? So, I wanted to bring you on to this particular show because you are very involved. As it was mentioned in your bio, you have traveled with ASCP. You have been a career ambassador for ASCP, and you now serve as the chair for the Council of Laboratory Professionals. So why do you feel that connection? Because some of our laboratorians, let's face it, do not necessarily see the value of belonging to and being involved with professional organizations. So why do you feel that connection is necessary?
It's very strange that you actually say that. And, it all stems from Stony Brook University. When I was going through the program, my program director, Kathleen Finnegan, she stressed to us as students that it's so important to be a part of professional organizations. It really molds you as a person. You develop so many, I would say, soft skills that, being on the bench, you don't necessarily develop. All you do on the bench is basically bench work. Whereas in societies, you become, it's like kind of, becoming a part of a club. So you learn different aspects of how to present yourself in different scenarios. You learn a lot of leadership techniques. And not even that, most importantly, the networking aspect. Taiwan, if we think about it, it's our relationship, I met Taiwana in Las Vegas at ASCP's conference in 2011. And we just struck up a conversation, and we have been colleagues, friends, I would say sisters since then. Both of our networks talk to each other, and we have grown throughout the years. So, for you not to be a part of an organization, it's really doing yourself a disservice, especially in today's day where, we have globalization and everything is on social media and there's so much that you do throughout using the internet and all of those networks. So if you do not tap into using different societies, different organizations to broaden your horizons, you're really doing yourself a disservice.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with that. It's like anything else. It doesn't work unless you do. And so when you get in and get involved and get active, you start to really understand how some of these organizations work, and you start to benefit, because one of the frustrations, or one of the things that I hear from laboratorians, especially those who are wanting to move up into leadership positions, is that they don't feel prepared because they have those skills technically and are awesome techs. When it comes to managing people and mentoring people and training and coaching people and having those soft skills that us as scientists don't always have, is rather difficult. So it's interesting and refreshing to hear that you've been able to develop some of those skills from being involved with ASCP.
Most definitely. I'll never forget when we met, and how we met. We just struck up a conversation, and we've kept in touch ever since. And to see both of us grow within the field is really refreshing. So I'm happy that we were able to meet that day.
Absolutely. Me as well. That was one of the things, of going to a conference and, really making yourself vulnerable, really getting out there and committing to networking with other people, finding out what other people are doing. And when I saw you, it was refreshing because I was at that conference by myself. So I didn't leave by myself. So that was a pretty amazing thing.
Most definitely.
Tiffany, I know you are involved with ASCP and currently serve as the chair for the Council of Laboratory Professionals. Can you share with us a little bit more about the council and what exactly does the council do for those people who may not know? I know we've gotten emails, that it's time. Right. If you're interested in being on the council, you can submit your interest, but can you tell the listeners a little bit more about what exactly the Council of Laboratory Professionals does?
So the Council of Laboratory Professionals, it's basically a council that is the laboratory professional's voice. So any ideas or any concerns that is brought to each council member, we discuss it through different meetings that we have. I have, being the chair, I've instilled that we have a meeting every other month. And we have an agenda, and we go through that agenda, and any concern or any topic that we can tackle, that is what we aim to strive to do. Apart from that, being the chair, you are also a person that is on the executive board. And being a part of the executive board, you're there as the voice from the laboratory professional's perspective. So you're there to basically voice everything that is going on within the field. We're talking about, hot topics such as wages, vacancies, licensure, lack of visibility, right? That is one of the keynotes that I have. Within my chairship, I really focus on the lack of visibility. So I made sure to encourage all council members to go out and become career ambassadors and go to different high schools and really promote the laboratory. Of course, with the coronavirus at this moment, we can't necessarily do so. However, we still try to keep in contact with all of our networks, the different high schools, and try to do presentations virtually. As well as we do career fairs, and we actually want to partner with the Pathologist Ambassadors program as well to do a joint venture, so that students can see that the pathologist is also a part of the whole laboratory science field, and we're not separate. We are a team. So that's basically like what we do. It's an honor to be on the council. It's a very competitive interview process you go through, but it's so worth it. It's such an honor. And this year has brought quite a few challenges, especially with the coronavirus. So we've had a lot of meetings, via Zoom. But hopefully next year, with the chair, well, he'll be chair, then he's chair-elect now, Aaron Odegaard. And, we'll make sure that there's smooth sailing. Again, I do encourage everyone to go ahead and to apply to become a council member of the Laboratory Professionals for ASCP. You will grow leaps and bounds, and the network that you will encounter will grow so much. There are beautiful people that work at ASCP that are truly invested and committed to laboratory science. And there are different town halls, especially now with the COVID-19. We have town halls that are being conducted via Zoom with our CEO, Blair Holliday. I do encourage listeners to go ahead and check those out. ASCP is definitely trying to make sure that they're highlighting the essential part that the laboratory has within the healthcare team. So I say all of that to say the CLP is definitely, it's like a cornerstone for the ASCP organization.
Awesome. And so for people who's interested in applying for the ASCP, one, they probably have to be a member of ASCP. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And then they would go onto ASCP website. Is that where the general application? Okay.
Yeah, ASCP.org, and you can go under the Council of Laboratory Professionals tab and Advocacy tab, and it's a drop-down. You'll be able to see the application for the CLP.
Awesome. So, listener audience, fellow laboratorians, please, if you think this is something for you, you want to get more involved into ASCP and work on the council, please submit your interest to be on that committee. Tiffany, is there a way for people to get involved even if they're not on the committee? So is there a way that they can continue to be advocates for the profession? I know that you and your team are out at high schools, well, when high schools are back in session, but is there ways that the general audience can get involved? How can we be advocates for the field?
Most definitely, and that will be the Career Ambassadors 2.0 program. It's also, the application is also provided on the ASCP website. ASCP, through our foundation, has put a lot of effort into creating a presentation catered for every single technologist, phlebotomist, pathologist, everyone. The presentation touches on every single aspect of the laboratory. It also includes salary. It's very interactive. All you have to do is just cater it to the activity that you're going to do with the student. So like, for instance, if you want to touch on chemistry and you want to do a dipstick, you can bring in some apple juice, right, as your specimen, and you see that the glucose goes through the roof, things of that nature. And, of course, the students are like, oh, my gosh, are you walking around with urine? And you calm them down and tell them it's apple juice. but yes, things of that. And trust me, very interactive. The kids love it. And it does so much for you and your spirit. Every time I go and I do presentations afterwards, it's like I feel they're so curious, which is great. One thing that I really hone on, especially when I'm speaking to seniors or, let's say, junior colleges, I really hone on phlebotomy. So I go around and I ask who's graduating this year, and everybody raises their hand. And I ask them what are they going to do this summer. And usually they're like, nothing, which is great. I say, yeah, so you're going to be a terror to your parents. So instead of doing that, why don't you go and do this little phlebotomy course? It's about 6 to 8 weeks, and you'll be a phlebotomist when you're done. Majority of college campuses, especially those that are more so medically or science inclined, will have a hospital nearby. So while you're going to school, per diem, you can go ahead and draw some patients and actually earn a living. It will build your skills in terms of being a medical being a medical assistant or being a phlebotomist. And you'll have something that's substantial when you are presenting a resume. So a majority of times, the students, they take pictures of the phlebotomy slide, and I'm like, the only thing you need is a high school diploma. And, they're psyched about it, So I really encourage people to become a career ambassador. It does so much for the community, but more so for you. Being on the bench 20 sometimes it feels like it's 24/7. The humdrum of work, you need something to break up that monotony. And it's my belief that the rent that you pay to live on this earth is doing community service. So I feel that every human being should do that. So, I used to do it on my days off when I was a tech, working the weekends. I used to do it on my days off. But now I have to, take a vacation day, but that's fine. And you go ahead and you represent your field. It's a field that you are proud of and that you love. So go ahead and become a career ambassador.
I absolutely love that. I love that because you are being an advocate and champion for the field, and advocacy starts with self. So it starts with our will to tell somebody else, our will to give back, and for you to pour into those students and even give them that idea of, while you're out during the summer, why don't you go ahead and take this class, take this program, get this certification, or get this, skill up under your belt. I think that kind of information that you're giving to our students is critical, because I'll tell you, I went to a vocational high school, which it was a double-edged sword. It didn't totally get me all the way ready for college like I could have been with all the honors classes. However, what it did is I was in the dental assisting program, and so it allowed me to work with patients at the age of 17 years old. So I learned how to talk with people early on, talk with people, be on time. I actually went to the state dental board in the state of Ohio, and I took my certification test. So it was the very first certification test, and to be honest with you, it was one of the hardest tests. It's an all-day test. You had half-a-day clinical portion. You had a radiology license portion you had to take, and a 300 written test. And I did all of this before I even went to college. So I had already started developing those soft skills, developing that professional acumen. So for you to tell those students, to look, go ahead and start getting some of these skills in now. Start building that resume. Start building that foundation is absolutely priceless.
Right. I jokingly say with them, I say, listen, nobody cares about you working at the Gap. Okay, and that's not putting down anyone who does work at the Gap. Let me put that out there. However, if you want to go into the medical field, it's good to start. It shows that you are committed to this field and you want to work your way up. There's so much that you will learn on your way up. you know. So, and not even that, you will get to empathize with those phlebotomists once you become a technologist. You will know what it feels like to get that hard stick, right? You will know that, listen, even though it's a short draw, right? If I have enough plasma in there, I can do the typing screen. I will try my best because that phlebotomist, they tried their best to get that specimen. You'll empathize with them, you know? And that is most important,
Absolutely. Tiffany, as laboratorians, it can feel as though the career ceiling is limited in this profession, at least from, you know, the information that I get from other sciences or the thought process. What are your thoughts, and does networking play a part in that? Do you feel like the ceiling is limited? And do you feel like, the second part of that is, do you feel like networking helps you to move past that perceived limited ceiling?
So that is the biggest misnomer of this field, okay? People feel that this field is a dead end. That is not true. Not true at all. You can go into industry, or you can stay in a hospital. You can work at a reference lab. There's so much that you can do. However, like I tell all my techs, in order for you to know what's really out there, you have to get out there. You have to go and look for it. Nothing's going to come to you. I need for you to go to symposiums, conferences. Listen, so, Tawana, you remember me? I had a business card. You think Memorial Sloan Kettering gave me a business card being a tech on the bench? No. Okay? That was Vistaprint. Okay? You go online and you make yourself a business card. Okay? When you hand someone the business card, they go, you know what? This person believes in them. Let me see what they're about. You have to believe in yourself. You have to put yourself out there. Nobody's going to do that for you. So I encourage people, go out to conferences. Then I hear, oh, but I can't afford it, and this and that. And then I look at their purse, and it's a Coach, you know, or it's something, some name brand, you know, nice purse, you know. You have to prioritize. Let's put that out there too. Okay? If you have to save up, save up. If you can't go to a national conference, understandable. There are conferences and symposiums that are regional, but you have to be a part of different societies to see when they're being given. Even if it's like an ASCP workshop, because those are throughout the nation. You have to make sure that you are connected. Networking is essential. The current job that I'm in at this moment, I have to tap into my network to get some of this information because some of it is new to me, right? But if I know that I have the queen of quality that works down in Maryland, right, I'm going to reach out to her and say, hey, what ideas do you have? You don't have to necessarily reinvent the wheel. Sometimes the wheel is just there for you, but you got to tap into it, you know. But if you don't have that network, who are you going to call, you know? So that is such a misnomer that I tell people that you need to get away from that and you need to think outside the box. You are a clinical laboratory scientist, also known as a medical laboratory scientist, also known as a medical technologist, right? All of those things, all the same person, okay? You save lives daily, okay? In order for you to be in the position that you're in order to get into the program, your prerequisite was organic chemistry. You are no dummy, okay? So I need for you to think outside the box and see how you can leverage yourself, okay? That's what I need the audience to do. You have to be your own advocate. And once you come across someone who believes in you, trust me, hold on to that person. That's why mentors are so important. At every single stage of your career, you will need a mentor. Not want, need a mentor. And as you grow, sometimes your mentors will change, right? Because your perspective changes, right? And that is fine. And that is fine. You know the saying, some people are good for a season and some people are good for a reason. Same thing. Same thing. You know, you love them all. You love them all. But it depends on where you are in your life. So I encourage people to be their own advocate.
Absolutely. You just dropped so many nuggets of wisdom just right there. You got to get out. You have to get out. People need to know who you are and what you're doing. You got to have a mentor. You got to be involved. You got to check in. That is absolutely right. There's so much that you can do in this career if you let it. If you let it, there's so much that you can do. So, Tiffany, what have you done to diversify your skills so that you've been able to be positioned for some of these leadership opportunities?
You know, like I said, for 10 years, I worked for Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. Tawana, you knew me when I was there, okay? Now, MSK, trust me, I would tell people, if I was one that believed in tattoos, MSK would be one that I would tattoo on my body, okay? I love that institution. Love that place. That place is home for me. No doubt about that. And I said to myself, okay, well, I could see myself here in the 30, 40 years. I'm not joking, you know. And then life says, hold on. Nope, that's not going to happen that way. You know, due to family circumstances, my mom got ill and I had to move to Florida, right? Was I expecting that? Not really. But, you know, there's a bigger network to care for my mom. My brother and his family are down there. So, hey, I got to go. Went down to Florida, went to a community hospital that was about maybe 200 bed, and I was supervisor for, now, mind you, I'm a blood banker, okay? I go down to this job, and now I'm supervisor for chemistry, hematology, coag, AP, the whole of AP, histotechnology. I haven't seen that stuff since books in school. Right? Microbiology, all of this. And then the director says to me, oh, yeah, on top of that, you're also supervisor for phlebotomy and the couriers. What? Right? So I was like, this is a lot to learn, right? Now I'm learning about POs, and I'm learning about cost centers, and all this stuff, you know? I'm like, okay, well, this ride is going to be one scary one, but we're going to hang on, right? And I tapped into my network, and those are the people that helped me. They helped guide me. I'll never forget when a Frozen came to AP, and I'm telling you, that thing is like a symphony. I don't know if you've ever seen it, right? And all hands on deck, right? And they were like, Tiffany, just stand in the corner and watch us work. And I watched the whole symphony go down, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. This is what you do? Oh, my gosh. Like, I was floored. And you see the histotechs cutting, and, I mean, beautiful. I learned so much. During that experience, I was able to really encounter a root cause analysis, right? Now, being at Memorial Sloan Kettering, if anything that, let's say, an incident happened and it was of massive magnitude and maybe even had an effect on patient care, a root cause analysis would occur, right? And having one, me being a technologist, even though I'm lead tech, going to that meeting where all individuals would be a part of, all departments, so let's say registration, nursing education, risk management, all players would be in the room, and we basically dissect the occurrence and see what happened and how we can prevent it from happening again. A meeting like that, I would never be privy to, right? Only my manager and director would go to something like that. But now I'm a supervisor of a smaller hospital. I get called in the room, right? I was nervous, but I was so excited, right? Because of things that I dreamt of, like, how does this happen? And now I get to be a part of it and see it. And I get to implement change. And I think that's what's the most powerful. The fact that you can implement change that really affects patient care. Like, I was on a high for at least 3 months. You know what I mean? So I would say you have to diversify your experience. Go to a big institution, right? MSK is widely known. Everybody knows MSK, right? Go to an institution like that. Then go to a small community hospital. And then I went to a larger institution, Tampa General Hospital in Florida. That place is a trauma level 1, 1,016 bed. They do every transplant under the sun you can think of. I had a sickle cell clinic. The place is pumping, right? And I was technical supervisor of the blood bank, right? In order for our inventory to be okay, I have to have 400 OPAs on my shelf. Can you imagine?
Wow.
The plate, wow, right? But I was so grateful for that place because there I was really able to use my management skills. I made sure as soon as I got to the institution, I had a one-on-one with all of my team members, all of my staff members. I asked them questions like, so tell me your story, and I told them my story, right? So they get to know who I am. Question I asked was, so what gets on your nerves here, right? I want you to be honest with me. So, and they, they're candid, and I'll jot them down. And my last question would be, so what are your expectations of me as your supervisor? For many people, it took them aback, right? Like, what? I can't believe you're asking me that. And I would say, no, I want to know, because it lets me know what's important to you. You cannot paint the same brush with every person, right? So you need to make sure that you develop trust with every individual that you manage. That's why you'll hear the saying of, you can't take every good tech, every great tech that can find every antibody in a panel and make them manager. That is so true, because there are different skills that are needed, right? A person that's a manager or a supervisor, that person has to have soft skills. They have to know how and when to talk to people. You have to think there's going to be a time where there's a snowstorm, there's a hurricane, right? You want to make sure that your staff is like, if Tiffany calls me, I'm there. But you have to develop trust.
Absolutely, absolutely. I absolutely agree with that. It is different skill sets, and you're right. Everybody who is an all-star tech may or may not be an all-star manager just because the skills are different. Mm-hmm. So I love that. I love that, diversifying your experiences. That's very important, taking those risks in your career. I can speak to the value that brings. I've worked for a pediatric facility, reference facility. I even took a tour and did a state-of-the-art mobile diagnostics program where I was out in the community doing sales and mammography
That's different.
and outreach.
Yeah. Wow.
And so all of those experiences, kind of lends to, your diversity of skills as a manager and being able to look at things different. One of the things that technologists typically say that they are not prepared in is in the financial acumen. As technologists, we are technically sound. We're technically good. That's our focus, the day-to-day, making sure that our testing is performed on time, within stat turnaround or whatever your metrics are. But once you start moving into management, you are moving from being in the weeds to now you need to be a visionary. You need to know budget. You need to know, when you have to send staff home because the labor is, is contracts. That's another good one, that you need to know. How not to talk so much. Your vendors don't need to know everything when you are negotiating a contract. All of those are different skill sets that you don't learn on the bench. So I'm happy that you mentioned that. So what's the best advice that you've received in your laboratory career that you would like to share with your fellow laboratorians?
So there are two things. The first thing is always remember you were a tech. As you move up the career ladder, always remember you were a tech. That will always humble you, right? So you will go, because you will never know what room you may be in. For all of a sudden, you may be in the C-suite one day, right? Sky's the limit. You never know, right? And
Absolutely.
You're the vice president of the laboratory, right? Remember that you once were a tech on the bench shaking tubes. Remember that. So you will always be an advocate for that department. Always. Always. In other words, don't ever get too big where you forget where you came from, your humble beginnings, right? I tell my techs all the time, listen, I'm your bulldog. Tell me what happened, okay? Even if you were in the wrong, tell me so I know how to prepare myself when I go into the room to advocate for you. So number one is don't forget that you are a tech. The second one is a good leader always encourages and inspires their staff. You must always be that cheerleader for your staff. You will come across some individuals that are brilliant. Taiwana, I mean brilliant, but they are so insecure with their ability, right? They're so insecure, but you know that this person has so much promise. But the fact that you believe in them, it will take them to higher heights. I remember I had a student. She was my second student ever in life, right? The first student I ever had in life, oh, my gosh, he was so bright. Right? He was just so bright, a shining star. To be honest, I didn't really teach him. You know what I mean? It was like a walk in the park, right? My second student, now, when you come to me, I always make sure I give you a test the first day. So many people say, Tiffany, that is so rude, that's crude. I'm like, no. It's to gauge how deep I have to go, right? Because every program is different, and you're learning so much in these different programs. Some of the stuff, you're like, blood bank, whatever. I don't really like it because I don't really know what's going on, so I don't pay no attention, right? But when you come and you're being taught by me, rotating with me, oh, no, you're going to know it, right? So I give you a test, gave her the test, and there were 10 questions, and she got a 5 out of 10, right? And the waterworks, Taiwana. I mean, she was crying so hard, You hear me? I had to calm her down. I said, this is okay. This is good. She said, what you mean this is good? I said, because that means we have work to do, and I get to work on you, and you're going to be great. Right? She looked at me like I was crazy. Right? And let me tell you, that girl today just finished the SBB program. She is the shining star of MSK Blood Bank. You hear me? Today. So I say that to say you have to encourage and inspire your staff members. You know, sometimes it just takes a little rubbing of the back and saying, you got this. I believe in you. That's all.
That's awesome. That is awesome information, and the wisdom and expertise that you share with your team members is one that we all strive for, and the kind of leader that we all would like to work for. So that's awesome information, and that's awesome that you do that. You get to know your employees and get to know your students.
Oh,
so Tiffany,
mm-hmm.
That's awesome. You can just hear the passion in your voice and what you do, and it's just exciting and refreshing to hear that. So when I hear people say, well, we're not recognized as a profession, and nobody knows who we are, and nobody cares what we do, and, you know, other things that people say, it's the kind of passion that you have that we all need to have in order to push the field of medical laboratory science or clinical laboratory science further and into the forefront. It takes us. If we are not willing to be champions for what we do, we can't expect anybody else to be champions. So thank you for what you are doing and the passion. And you still have that same passion that you had when I first met you. So, Tiffany, as we bring this thing to a close, you've shared so many awesome nuggets. Any closing nuggets or tidbits you want to leave the listening audience with before we close?
I would say go out there and represent the lab to the best of your ability. Always I want you to go out there and I want you to be brave. So as you know, I'm in New York City, and there was a post that I actually shared the other day on LinkedIn, and it was a video of Mayor de Blasio actually sharing with the whole New York State, thanking lab workers. He's told a story of him going to Interfaith Hospital, which is a small hospital in Brooklyn. It was actually on the brink of closing a few years back, and it did not, thank God. He went out there around 7 p.m., him and, you know, the fire marshals going out there and clapping, right, to recognize the healthcare heroes. And while he was out there, a technologist from the lab went up to him and said, Mayor, don't forget the lab, the individuals, the technologists that are actually doing the testing. I know that you're out here, you know, clapping for, you know, the healthcare heroes, which majority of times, you know, you're thinking doctors and nurses, but the individuals that are behind the scenes that are actually handling the specimens, right? Making sure that you are getting a diagnosis are never mentioned. Mayor de Blasio took a good 4 to 5 minutes and recognized all lab workers. He said the word technologist. He said public health lab workers. I mean, he mentioned everybody. He left nobody out. In watching the video, I had tears in my eyes. I said, finally, someone is talking for us, right? But he emphasized that it took that brave individual to come up to him and to make him aware. So I encourage everyone out there to be brave. You won't know an answer unless you ask the question, right? And if you get a no, you still breathing, right? You just move on. Just move on. At least you know that you tried. So I encourage everyone to be brave.
That is amazing. Thank you so much, Tiffany.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
You always give, and this is not the first time I've had the pleasure of interviewing you, but you always give so many great nuggets for the listening audience. So thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know you're out busy being an advocate for the profession and for what we do, and so I just appreciate you taking the time out to talk with me today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's my honor, Tawana. Anything for you.
See, I'm utilizing my network. Well, thank you, listening audience, for tuning in to another episode of Elaborate Topics. Make sure you meet us next week in the laboratory to hear from another amazing leader or hear from another amazing topic. If you haven't already, make sure you catch all episodes on directimpactbroadcasting.com. We're also on your favorite podcast platforms, including iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, YouTube, and Spotify. And if you are interested in being a guest on this show, you can go to directimpactbroadcasting.com, and up under the Contact tab, you will see a link that says Elaborate Topics Guests. So if you want to be on here and talk about some of the other professional societies, CLMA, AACC, ASCLS, or some of the other organizations in the clinical laboratory space, we would love to have you on and hear from your perspective, because we want to make sure that we are informing medical laboratory professionals near and far. So thank you so much for tuning in to this episode, and until next time, have an amazing day.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Elaborate Topics, where your hosts discussed relevant strategies for laboratory professionals. Please subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform and listen to us on directimpactbroadcasting.com. Stay tuned for another episode with information you can use to excel in your laboratory career.